My name is John Smith, and I'm a journalist for the Daily Observer in New York City. For the past 15 years, I've covered politics, business, crime, and human interest stories. But nothing could have prepared me for the events of that fateful Tuesday in June when our entire civilization was shaken to its core. It started off as an ordinary morning. I grabbed a coffee on my way to the office, exchanging pleasant chit-chat with the barista. The sun was shining and people bustled about on their way to work. As I entered the newsroom, my colleagues were immersed in their usual tasks, typing away at computers, jotting down notes, preparing for editorial meetings. "Morning, John," my editor Mark said as he rushed by. "City Hall press conference at 11 to address the budget cuts. I need 500 words by noon." "You got it," I replied, settling in at my desk and booting up my computer. Just another day at the Observer. I was scanning the latest headlines when a faint rumbling sound interrupted my concentration. Looking up from my screen, I noticed others glancing around in confusion. The rumbling grew louder by the second, as if a fleet of jet planes was streaking by overhead. But this was a deep, thunderous rumble that seemed to resonate in your chest. My eyes were drawn to the window just as a massive shadow fell over the city. Gasps and cries erupted throughout the newsroom as we gaped in shock and disbelief. An enormous cylindrical spacecraft was descending from the clouds, dwarfing the entire skyline. It was easily a half-mile in diameter, with rows of bright lights gleaming from its metallic hull. A stunned silence engulfed the office as we struggled to comprehend what we were witnessing. Before we could collect our wits, another colossal ship emerged through the cloud cover and loomed menacingly over the city, and then another and another. Within minutes, the clear blue sky was filled with alien spacecraft, blotting out the sun like a celestial eclipse. "What is this? What's happening?" I murmured, my heart pounding. Chaos erupted in the streets below as New Yorkers poured out of buildings, craning their necks to the sky with terrified awe. Sirens began wailing in the distance. I rushed to the window, looking upward. The hull of the nearest ship sparked and sizzled with bluish-white electrical charges, an electrified cloud bigger than the Chrysler Building. I fumbled for my camera and began snapping photos, hands shaking. Just then, one of the spacecraft released a blinding orb of light from its underbelly. The orb drifted down slowly, coming to hover above Times Square. The light then coalesced into a giant 3D image projected against the skyscrapers. A humanoid figure at least 100 feet tall, clad in a sleek metallic suit, arms crossed authoritatively. A booming voice spoke from the floating colossus, seemingly emanating from the very air itself. "People of Earth, we are the Galactic Council. We have been monitoring your planet for centuries. The time has come for you to face judgment." Screams of panic rippled through the streets as the deafening message reverberated between the buildings. The shining figure raised its arms commandingly. "We will now address your world leaders. Convene immediately or face grave consequences." The mesmerizing projection then blinked out, leaving only empty sky in its wake. For a few moments, the ships just hovered silently over the frozen city. Then, with breathtaking speed, the spacecraft zoomed upward and vanished into the clouds, gone as quickly as they had appeared. It took a few minutes for the reality of it all to sink in. As frightened crowds wandered about in bewilderment, I sat stunned, struggling to process what I had just witnessed. Giant alien ships had appeared over New York, and a booming projection had demanded our world leaders convene or else face unspecified consequences. I glanced around the newsroom in disbelief. My colleagues were already scrambling into action, yelling into phones and typing furiously at computers. Outside, faint sounds of looting and chaos echoed up from the streets as the city's infrastructures began breaking down. This was it. First contact with an advanced intergalactic civilization. As a journalist, I had a duty to document these historic events, and somehow make sense of them for my readers. But I couldn't shake a creeping dread that our very future as a species now hung in the balance, facing judgment from powers beyond our comprehension. Taking a few deep breaths to collect myself, I steeled my nerves and began gathering notes. It was going to be a long day, and something told me this was only the beginning of an unprecedented turning point for humanity. It's been 72 hours since the arrival of the Galactic Council. Their massive ships still loom ominously over all the major cities, projecting an impenetrable force field around the perimeter. The ships have made no further pronouncements, nor have the occupants revealed themselves since that initial message demanding the convening of world leaders. Military forces stand ready across the globe but hold their fire, uncertain if our primitive weaponry would even dent those colossal crafts. For 3 tense days, world leaders have hastily assembled at the United Nations headquarters in New York City, conferred with advisors, contacted foreign allies, and prepared for first contact. As a journalist reporting live from outside the UN, I've watched a frenetic parade of presidents, prime ministers, kings, and other dignitaries flood through these doors, gripped with anxiety but steadfast with determination. Ampling quote from leader. Now the moment of reckoning has finally arrived. With the aliens' deadline only hours away, the gathered leaders file into the enormous General Assembly Hall to confront the Galactic Council. As I take my seat in the guest gallery overlooking the chamber, a nervous excitement fills the air. Hundreds of diplomats and journalists murmur in hushed voices, speculating about what these emissaries from the stars could want. Will they come in peace or condemnation, offer advancement or annihilation? A sudden hush falls over the room as the massive view screen embedded in the back wall flickers to life. Gasps and shouts erupt as an imposing alien visage materializes on screen, staring sternly down upon the assembly. It is the same colossal metallic being projected over the cities 3 days earlier. Leaders of Earth, we are the Galactic Council. The booming voice echoes through the hall. For millennia, your violent species has been quarantined to this small planet, while far greater civilizations have thrived across the cosmos. Now, through your own recklessness, you stand at the cusp of interstellar travel and contamination of worlds beyond your own. Angry murmurs ripple through the crowd, but soon quiet down as the alien continues. We have monitored your transmissions and witnessed the rank barbarism of your societies, the brutality, ignorance, and irresponsibility endemic to your kind. You wage endless wars over trivial differences as millions starve and die. You ravage your world through careless industry and wage destruction upon its natural wonders. The aliens' words strike like hammer blows. I glance around at the stony faces of the world leaders, shocked and indignant but holding their tongues. After a weighty pause, the alien continues. The time has now come for judgment. With that, the screen suddenly splits into a grid of hovering alien faces, dozens upon dozens, glaring down in cold assessment. Low, ominous hums reverberate through the air as their leader begins to speak. Let the tribunal of humanity now commence. Chaos erupts as voices cry out in protest. The central alien coldly raises a palm for silence. UN Secretary-General Takeshita tentatively rises from his seat, clears his throat, and addresses the assembly. Esteemed Council, on behalf of humanity, I welcome you in the spirit of peace. We wish no quarrel with... Do not speak untruths, the alien leader interrupts. Peace has never been the way of your earthling hordes whose history we have thoroughly charted. You smear your hands in the blood of billions, destroyed by your famines, your wars, your ruthless industry. Secretary Takeshita winces but retains his composure. We acknowledge humanity's flaws but also recognize our capacity for We see no greatness here, another alien voice bellows from the gridded screen. Just last month, your nations met in Geneva to discuss nuclear disarmament and left with no progress made. Thousands of warheads still stand poised over populated cities. Yes, but Takeshita attempts to respond but is quickly drowned out by choruses of alien voices berating humanity's failings. Accusations bombard the assembly from all sides. 15,000 of your children die daily of starvation and disease, needlessly. You pump toxic pollutants into your waters and poison your own air. Entire species are driven to extinction each year through your endless encroachment. Secretary Takeshita calls for order and confers with advisors, face etched in frustration. Meanwhile, outraged leaders jump to their feet, shouting in protest at the aliens' judgments. President Harris of the United States boldly steps forth and addresses the council. Now you listen here. We fully acknowledge humanity's mistakes over the centuries, but we have also produced incredible beauty, built lasting monuments, launched souls into the heavens. Our societies have ended slavery, extended rights, and established mighty democracies. We have earned the right to traverse the stars. Hisses and groans rise from the gridded screens as alien mouths contort in anger. Suddenly, a deafening electronic tone silences the assembly hall. When the tone ceases, the central alien's voice booms forth. Beautiful words cannot hide ugly truths. Your democracies are rife with deception and mob rule. The wrathful impulses buried in your reptilian brains too often steer your course as a people, overruling reason. You lash out with genocidal rage over the most trivial tribal differences. What will you do when you have access to 1,000 more worlds to despoil? How dare you, cries President Mugabe of Zimbabwe, rising angrily to his feet. You paint us all with one brush when each nation has its own proud identity and culture. My people have long suffered grievous harm from foreign powers, but now we forge ahead to a new era of unity and... Enough! An alien voice thunders. Your era of discord ends now. This tribunal hereby strips humanity of all rights to develop spacefaring technologies. Your primitive rockets shall fly no more. Any vessels attempting launch will face immediate destruction. The hall erupts into shouts and heated arguments. Alien voices boom from the screen, denouncing and belittling every human endeavor. For over an hour, the tense standoff continues, as world leaders defend humanity and the council decries our every flaw. Finally, the central alien extends his arms, silencing the assembly. The tribunal will now pass final judgment. Given humanity's penchant for violence, your civilizations must be restructured to end conflict. Effective immediately, your warring nation-states are dissolved and Earth is united under one planetary government based on the principles of rationality and justice. Directors from the Galactic Council will assume control during a transitional period until a suitable human committee of planetary governance can be assembled according to our guidance. The era of human savagery ends now. The assembled leaders stand in stunned outrage and dismay as the monumental verdict sinks in. All national sovereignty and space exploration stripped away in one decree. Riotous arguments break out, but the aliens stand firm, gleaming eyes unmoved. This tribunal will not be swayed by human protestations. As the world leaders continue their heated but fruitless debate, I glance around at my fellow journalists, faces etched with disbelief. I cannot fathom the massive changes about to be unleashed upon humanity under the jackboot of these overbearing alien masters. Perhaps our redemption lies somewhere on the distant horizon. But as we leave the tribunal hall still quarreling and defeated, mankind's future has never looked so grim. It's been 6 months since the Galactic Council began restructuring human civilization according to their uncompromising vision. The transitional government officially commenced last month. a gray, passionless bureaucracy selecting compliant candidates for the new Committee of Planetary Governance. Meanwhile, rebel factions have begun mobilizing as unrest simmers under the surface. Some are small groups engaging in subversive graffiti, black market trading, or underground news distribution. Others organize rowdy protests which are quickly crushed by council security drones. But lately I've heard whisperings of a secretive rebel network plotting more audacious resistance. As a journalist, I've worked my contacts, chasing each thread to its end, slowly piecing together clues to identify the ringleaders. Discreet questions in shady taverns, coded messages passed on the street, informants trading tidbits for protection or profit. It's gritty, risky work digging up the truth under the council's ever-present watch. Finally, my efforts yielded results. Instructions arrived to meet in an abandoned warehouse on the decayed outskirts of the city. So here I stand among dusty ruins and rubble, awaiting my contact. A lone, hooded figure emerges from the shadows and beckons me forward without a word. I follow him through a crumbling corridor to a heavy steel door sealed with a retinal scanner. As the door slides open, the hooded man points me through and promptly disappears. I descend a narrow staircase into a hidden basement, nerves taut with anticipation. The cramped room is filled with computer stations, electronic equipment, and boards covered in data charts. A diverse group eyes me warily, their leader stepping forth to introduce herself as Irina, former astrophysics professor turned resistance commander. Irina interrogates me thoroughly, suspicious of any stranger seeking to join their cell. After an hour of grilling, she seems satisfied I'm no council informant. I explain my critical reporting experience and offer to document their struggle, sway public opinion, and expose the harsh realities obscured by council propaganda. Irina agrees to tentatively bring me into the fold, but only after securing the team's unanimous consent. One by one, they voice their agreement to make me a probationary member. I commit every name and face to memory. Nikolai, police officer stripped of his badge by the council. Diego, veterinarian who treats rebel injuries in secret. Aya, computant turned hacker. Huang, chemist devising improvised explosives. Jomo, businessman who leverages old contacts to finance their activities. Together, these 7 coordinators spearhead a network of hundreds of rebels across the region, united in their dream of ending the council's totalitarian rule and restoring human independence, while their allies stage public demonstrations as distractions. This team has spent months infiltrating planetary databases to uncover council secrets. But increased security has frustrated their hack attempts. So they've hatched a bold new plan to breach the council's mainframe aboard their orbiting mothership, granting access to full intelligence data and vulnerable systems control. Aya outlines an ingenious method she's devised to transmit a virus code burst through a data maintenance port during the next satellite synchronization shift. The brief window will allow the team to bypass exterior defenses and gain remote access to the main network. If successful, they can obtain council plans and directives word for word, exposing any lies to humanity and undermining their fraudulent benevolence. And if very lucky, they may even be able to seize a measure of operational control, disrupting security systems to enable future rebel missions. The team seems hopeful this could be a pivotal turning point in humanity's struggle. But serious risks remain. Previous attempts to approach the orbiting ships have been ruthlessly suppressed, and if their intrusion is detected, the Council will immediately seal that vulnerability, making future hacks near impossible. Their plan must be executed flawlessly, in total secrecy, and with perfect timing to succeed. I agree to sneak aboard a regional governor's shuttle under false credentials to obtain final access codes from a security terminal on board. The team will then target the mothership during its next resupply and personnel transfer in 36 hours. As we disperse, Irina reiterates the plan's importance but urges caution and vigilance. If captured, we'll face draconian psychological reconditioning at the very least. The hours tick by anxiously as I await the shuttle departure. At last the call comes in, and I blend into the stream of council personnel boarding the elevator to the launch bay, trying to appear casual while nerves prickle my skin. The uneventful shuttle flight to the orbiting station grants me time to rehearse my cover story, walking the fine line between confidence and not attracting undue attention. Floating through the sterile corridor, I spot my destination, a security checkpoint leading to the central databanks. As I present my forged ID with clammy hands, the VI assistant scans my credentials without reaction. After a tense moment, the door slides open, allowing me through to the data terminals. I suppress a sigh of relief. Only Phase 1 complete, but so far so good. I query the virtual system, feigning a software diagnostic task. Minutes crawl by as processing indicators flicker across the screens. Finally, the decrypted access codes materialize before my eyes. The team's plan flashes through my mind as I commit the codes to memory, then swiftly erase all trace from the logs. Phase 2 accomplished. Time to disappear before suspicion arises. Fingers crossed, I make my way back through the minimalist halls towards the return shuttle, the stolen data burning a hole in my mind. As I near the final corridor to the docking bay, my heart freezes as two council enforcers suddenly round the corner ahead. I avert my eyes and try playing it cool, but they take up positions blocking my path, ushering me towards an adjacent detention room. My pulse hammers as I evaluate my options. I can't run or resist. As they close in on either side, I slip a hand casually into my pocket, bracing myself for what I must do next. With lightning speed, I whip out the stun grenade I'd concealed as a last resort, pulling the trigger and squeezing my eyes shut. A blinding flash erupts in the narrow hall, followed by cries of shock from the enforcers. I crack my eyes open to see them spasming, disoriented on the floor, and sprint past without hesitation, their sight and balance temporarily overwhelmed by the non-lethal device. More enforcers could arrive any second as I burst into the shuttle bay and strap myself into a departing vessel just in time for launch sequence. We disembark and I force myself to breathe steadily, knowing I'll be scanned on arrival back to Earth. But the stolen codes are all that matters now. Whatever happens, the team must succeed tomorrow. Those final hours pass in agonizing uncertainty as I await my fate. But the team successfully extracts me, and I relay the codes under cover of night. Tomorrow, the infiltration begins. Irina confirms all is ready and reiterates the plan's details with military precision. At the designated hour, we huddle anxiously in the hidden basement, silently watching Aya initiate the data hack on the mothership above. Complex code floods the monitors as she breaches exterior defenses using my stolen access keys. Network alerts begin to flash as she battles counter-intrusion algorithms, feverishly circumventing each new barrier in a virtual game of cat and mouse. Suddenly, the displays erupt in success indicators and we're in. The team actually cheers, caught up with euphoria before quickly regaining composure. There's no time for celebration yet. Now, the real work begins. Aya rapidly extracts encrypted data stores while Nikolai monitors ship's sensors for any signs we tripped alarms. 20 tense minutes pass in limbo before they confirm the data mining was completed without detection. After hastily covering our digital footprints, we terminate the link. Irina pats Aya on the back in congratulations while scanning the first decrypted documents. What we uncover seems banal at first. Fleet maintenance logs, personnel shifts, equipment inventories. But further in, we hit pay dirt, confidential strategy briefings and intelligence assessments that expose the Council's true disdain for humanity and authoritarian long-term plans. Beyond any doubt, their words prove the Galactic Council never planned to restore self-rule. Their aim is utter subjugation, with any dissenters to be reconditioned by force. Their goal is not enlightening humanity, but imposing absolute control while leeching our planet's resources to fuel their expansion. Armed with these revelations, I can finally roar from the rooftops and expose the Council's web of lies. Their moral high ground will crumble in the light of truth, and planting seeds of revolt among their grunts and technicians may now be possible. Of course, this is just one small victory, scarcely denting the Council's power. But for the first time, real hope for humanity's resistance has emerged. Today, we strike back. And someday soon, we may just reclaim the stars. Everything has gone wrong. Shortly after we exposed the Council's confidential documents, all hell broke loose. They must have detected something amiss, after all, and traced the hack back to us. We had planned to slowly disseminate select pieces of intel to sow public dissent. Instead, we're now running for our lives. It started with targeted disappearances of suspected resistance members. Then one morning, Council enforcers began marching through city streets in staggering numbers, weapons drawn, backed by hovering gunships against the dawn sky. They sealed off access points and raided homes, arresting thousands accused of subversion in a despotic show of force. The Council has imposed full martial law, enforced by legions of identical HK-99 robots unleashed to paralyze the population with intimidation. The silver humanoid machine stands 7 feet tall, heads swiveling from side to side, scanning crowds with strobe blue sensor lights where eyes should be. Citizens are permitted outside only briefly each day for necessary tasks, forced to navigate checkpoints manned by scores of enforcers. All communication is monitored as emergency curfews confine families to their homes. The hammer has truly fallen. Most of the resistance leadership was captured in the first wave of raids, their hideouts expectedly now compromised. Thankfully, I was on a ruined periphery of the city when the HK units began marching. I glimpsed columns of them thundering down thoroughfares from my rooftop vantage point before fading into the shadows. For weeks, I've been on the run using smuggling routes known from my investigative days to slip through quarantine cordons. Between dodging patrol drones, the Council has saturated all media channels with propaganda, denouncing the resistance as traitors sowing chaos and falsehoods. They claim the martial curfew is only temporary, for our own protection and compliance. But the menacing HK enforcers tell another story. This is a society crushed beneath an iron grip. I've managed to scribble graffiti slogans and distribute a few precious data sticks containing the Council's damning secrets. But any citizen caught with such contraband risks summary detention. Not to mention getting caught myself would mean immediate mind wipe reprogramming, or worse. From safe house to safe house, I bounce, relying on the mercy of those who still dream of self-rule for humanity. My next refuge is an apartment in a largely abandoned block at the decayed city's edge. I slip past the HK guards into a crumbling foyer that reeks of mold and despair. Inside, I meet my contact Riza, an elderly man who secured this squat for me to lay low a while. He brews bitter coffee as we confer in hushed tones. 3 other fugitives under his protection join us, their haunted eyes evidence of the Council's cruelty towards those who resist. Later that night, we sneak up to the rooftop to glimpse the occupied city. In the sky overhead, a Council mothership hovers amongst the clouds, bristling with defense turrets and sprawling like a metallic mountain across the horizon. Along my line of sight, sporadic pillars of fire erupt where insurgent strikes provoked reprisal bombardments. It's been months since the Council seized control of major military assets and infrastructure. Their enforcers now operate with impunity while HK machines keep the cowed population in line. Armored aerial gunships roar by on patrol, outfitted with plasma cannons and sensor arrays. At this point, organized human military resistance has been neutralized and driven underground. But there are whispers that some units continue fighting a guerrilla war from remote mountain bases. And occasionally, the Council still deems it necessary to make harsh examples of rebellious cities by flattening a random block of buildings with concentrated plasma fire. Looking out at the smoldering ruins where neighborhoods once stood, I feel the weight of hopelessness threatening to crush my spirit. The Council seems utterly unassailable now, their technological might deafening and devastating. I turn my gaze upward again to glimpse the mothership's menacing underbelly, bristling with enough firepower to vaporize entire armies. Somewhere within that colossal fortress drifts an endless stream of personnel and resources nourishing the Council's occupation. There must be a way aboard, I think to myself, some chink in their armor we failed to find. My reminiscing is interrupted by Riza, pulling me hurriedly back downstairs. His drone hack alarm means enforcers are canvassing this block, again. We descend into the dank basement and slide a false panel into place just as harsh voices echo from the floor above. My heart pounds as heavy boots tromp directly overhead. A thin stream of dust drifts down as the intruders sweep room by room. Muffled banging and shouts filter through the walls until fading away into the distance. A painfully close call, but at least tonight we rest in safety's embrace, however fleeting it may be. Over the next week, we have repeated close scrapes with Council patrols, once hiding crammed together in a crawl space for endless hours. Living under martial law sharpens the mind into a weapon bent purely on survival. I'm reminded of foxes evading the hunters, wary, ever watchful, ready to bolt at the first sign of danger. During rare moments of calm, my thoughts return to the dire plight of humanity, my promise to continue the information fight, and finding a way to strike back against overwhelming odds. Each tiny act of defiance proving that the human spirit still yearns to run free lifts my own spirit in turn. Finally, the time has come again to venture out and seek a new refuge. Reza prepares traveling papers and supplies for me, tersely wishing me luck. As we embrace farewell, I see moistness in the old man's eyes at the thought of losing another adoptive son to the resistance cause. I promise him we'll meet again someday in the free world we both yearn to see. Under cover of night, I set out, papers identifying me as Alan Vostru, itinerant farm worker. The lies roll effortlessly off my tongue at checkpoints as I wind my way beyond the sprawl of urban patrols into rural regions now miles from the occupied metropolis. After passing several remote hamlets and farms untouched by Council forces, I arrive footsore and weary in the mountain township of Birtok. Here the occupation's squeeze seems less crushing, with only a token enforcer presence. I take up shelter in a musty inn, savoring my first night of dreamless sleep in ages, undisturbed by drone engines or stomping boots. In days ahead, I befriend the innkeeper Stefan, who opens his tavern after curfew for black market exchanges. Patrons murmur seditious rumblings between sips of ale, speculating whether bands of rebels truly endure in wilderness strongholds. Others whisper of distant lands beyond Council reach where humanity still thrives unshackled. Birtok feels akin to a sanctum of normality, remnants of the world before, but the illusion is shattered when enforcers bash down the tavern door one midnight, weapons brandished. My gut twists as their leader scans the room with a sneer, relishing his power over our lives. The guilty slink out downcast under harsh threats should unlawful gatherings continue. I conclude it's time to move along. After a painful farewell with Stefan, I set off along a winding mountain road as Birtok's humble lights fade into the distance. Days later, a lonely structure emerges from the mists, an aging cattleman's hovel offering meager shelter for the night. In the morning, Faint beams of sunlight filtering through cracked boards rouse me from restless dreams. As I rise stiffly, a sense of foreboding floods my mind. Quickly gathering my pack, I push open the weathered door just as an ominous droning sound swells outside. My heart drops like a stone. Marching up the road is an entire platoon of HK enforcers, at least 40 strong. This is no routine patrol. They must have tracked my movements each stop along the way. I curse myself for a fool, thinking I could evade their all-seeing eye forever. Now, death approaches with crushing footsteps, each silver automaton armed with retractable plasma casters. I stumble back inside, barricading the door to buy precious seconds. My thoughts race wildly as I weigh hopeless options. I cannot fight or flee such firepower, but I'll be damned before letting the mind probes hollow me out. Grabbing my journal and the last data stick of evidence, I smash open the cellar hatch. Peering into the dark depths, I whisper a defiant prayer before relinquishing my body to gravity's embrace. A split second of weightlessness, then sudden impact as the unforgiving ground rushes to meet me. Intolerable pain, followed by the blackness I've been fleeing towards all along. So this is how my journey ends, I think, calmly as cold numbness spreads through my core. But it's only my flesh they can destroy. The conviction fueling our resistance lives on in those who carry the dream. My spirit rises freely now to soar amongst the stars they tried to deny us. Sleep comes at last to claim me, their promised utopia bleeding away into dust. Ragged plumes of oily smoke twist into the sky above New Metropolis, capital of the Council-occupied territories on Earth. Furious skirmishes rage across the streets outside their towering Fortress HQ, which dominates the skyline. Pinned down enforcer units cower behind armor-plated vehicles, exchanging blistering fire with rebel squads darting between cover positions. Above the battlefield, squadrons of Council gunships swerve and dive, unleashing torrents of plasma upon clusters of human fighters. But camouflaged anti-air cannons hidden amongst the rubble swivel their barrels skyward, spewing flak bursts that overwhelm the craft's deflector shields and send them spiraling down in flames. This is the long-awaited hour of reckoning. After years building momentum, the scattered human resistance has finally coalesced into a planet-wide fighting force, launching this desperate bid to decapitate the Council and end their cruel reign. In synchronized offensives across the globe, rebel armies emerged from concealment on mountains, tundras, and deserts to lay siege to Council citadels. Alien commanders were caught off guard, forced to draw down occupation troops from outlying settlements just to fortify their strongholds. Today is the climax of the strategy. A huge coalition of rebel factions has converged to assault the Council's Fortress HQ in the old Earth capital. Success depends on capturing its command center to disable their worldwide grid of surveillance, propaganda, and automated defenses. Artillery cannons shell nearby buildings where snipers have barricaded themselves. Squadrons of exosuit-clad rebels advance street by street through the brutalist warren of structures. The bulky mech armor enhances strength and absorbs enemy fire, allowing rebel infantry to pin down squads of alien enforcers. Council mechanized walkers with spidery legs attempt to flank the rebels but are met with rocket fire and melt into slag. The streets ring with deafening firefights as the rebels slowly battle forward. They've sacrificed much to reach this point. Either humankind will throw off its shackles today or face centuries more servitude and mind wipes for the survivors. The stakes could not be higher. Watching safely from afar, I track the moving front line from a commandeered command vehicle. As a military journalist, I'm unarmed and embedded within the Combat Engineer Corps supporting the ground assault. We're working feverishly to disrupt security grids and clear a path into the well-guarded fortress. "Commander Rezrov on Channel 2, our radio officer announces. I rush over as Rezrov's distorted voice filters through the static. Our armored units have established a perimeter just 500 meters from the outer gates, requesting urgent strikes on these coordinates so we can breach. His words kindle a surge of excitement. The rebel expeditionary units have almost reached striking distance after hours' brutal combat against Council defenders. Coordinates received, our chief engineer Ivan replies, deploying pulse disruptors to deactivate perimeter shields. Outside our turret scopes, we see flashes as the disruptor missiles detonate against the colossal fortress walls. When the energy shield flickers out, a cheer goes up. Now the walls are vulnerable to sustained fire. Our heavy rail cannons unleash rapid shots at the weakened section, cracking and cratering the impenetrable alloy. Finally, a gaping fissure splinters open. Breach achieved, Ivan confirms. All units, you are clear to advance through the south wall. We watch from afar as the breakthrough allows rebel tanks to push forward into the outer courtyards, trading fire with interior defenses. This fortress was designed to withstand any siege, but if we capture the command nexus, the brain of Council's global network, their technological advantage becomes useless. Commander Rezrov, you must secure Nexus Command with all speed, transmitting its coordinates now, Ivan radios. I glimpse holographic schematics highlighting a path to the deeply buried nerve center. Affirmative, we'll get it done, Rezrov responds before shouts and weapons discharge erupt through the channel. They've pushed inside and will surely encounter fanatical resistance trying to reach Nexus Command. But we're committed now, even if it means fighting room to room through a hellscape. Hours of tense uncertainty pass as the rebels battle inward against increasing automation and alien defenders. Our engineers labor to aid their advance, hacking surveillance feeds, locking down blast doors and deploying sentry nanodrones through ducts into the fortress. Finally, the radio crackles again with Rezrov's exhausted voice. Nexus Command is breached. We're uploading the virus now. Our vehicle erupts in cheers at the news. If their data Trojan bypasses system safeguards, all Council operations on Earth will be paralyzed. Receiving uplink confirmation. Data Trojan active. Their systems are going down. Ivan yells triumphantly as alerts stream across our monitors. Reports flood in of alien vessels plummeting from Earth's skies, robots abruptly going dormant, defense grids collapsing worldwide. We've achieved an impossible victory against a far superior foe. Wasting no time, we rush a transmission to the fleet orbiting above the now neutralized mothership. HQ Nexus is captured. Full assault. Repeat full assault on orbiting Council flagship. This is the moment we desperately hoped for. From the swirling darkness of space, dozens of jury-rigged rebel fighters emerge using cloaking frequency codes we extracted from Nexus. They launch a relentless barrage of plasma torpedoes and particle beams at the unshielded mothership still far larger than the entire attack force combined. But with her defenses disabled, the flagship is a gargantuan target drifting vulnerable amidst the debris of her demolished escorts. I watch awestruck through imaging scopes as fiery bursts rupture across the mothership's expansive hull. Arcs of exploding plasma trace along its length, tearing immense gashes. Escape pods jettison out the sides as internal explosions rupture entire decks. The shining leviathan that once stood invincible, striking fear across a planet, is finally wounded and dying. A coordinated proton cannon volley smashes into engineering sections near the stern. For a moment there is silence before a colossal detonation shatters the flagship's entire aft quarter in a blinding flash. Slowly, the ragged remains begin drifting down through orbit, dragged by Earth's implacable gravity towards a fiery rendezvous with the oceans below. It's over in under an hour. The rebel virus has purged every Council system, leaving defenseless remnants now surrounded and blockaded in their strongholds. Their all-powerful armada lies in ruins falling from the heavens they'd ruled just hours before. At long last, humanity has seized its freedom. In the aftermath, I reunite with old friends in the resistance who survived the pitched battle. We embrace tearfully, scarcely believing our victory. As occupying forces surrender across the planet, spontaneous celebrations erupt in the streets. When the Nexus computers unlock, I'm tasked with combing the databases for anything shedding light on our former overlords. Most data provides technical details on managing humanity, but one encrypted file catches my eye simply titled Species 177. Biometric unlocking grants access to a restricted Council research dossier obviously never intended for our eyes. What I uncover sends shockwaves through my numbed mind. For all their assertions of superiority, the Council secretly feared humanity's potential eventual ascendance if left unshackled. Our species' capacity for explosive growth and technological innovation rattled them. So they developed the silent panopticon of surveillance and psychological manipulation to contain humankind indefinitely. They cloaked subjugation in pretenses of uplifting us, while hiding their true goal, preventing humans from ever challenging Council supremacy over the stars. Their lies about violent, uncontrolled instincts were mere projections. In truth, they recognized our monuments and achievements towering over eons of struggle. Our dreamers, builders, and thinkers scared them deeply. And so the masters became the jailers, terrified of humankind outstripping their sterile empire. We were dissected and suppressed not for moral failings, but exceeding their imaginations. I publicize these revelations about humanity's boundless potential with pride, knowing we shall let no false ceilings constrain our destiny. When power transfers fully to human hands, we will handle governance more justly and celebrate the diverse brilliance of all voices. There will be trying years ahead healing our wounded planet and spirit, but for the first time in generations, all eyes look upward eagerly, our hands finally free to grasp boundless futures. We shall reach out in fellowship to the stars from which we were so long excluded, and humanity will lead the cultures of this galaxy together as partners instead of prisoners. This transformation has given me faith again in our indomitable species. Though the road ahead remains long and fraught, humankind will venture forth to terraform dead worlds, yielding thriving paradises warmed by new stars. The light of civilization will spread ever outward to fill the void. And we will traverse the universe's farthest shores, knowing our destiny never ends while our imaginations last. Though I may not live to witness humanity's coming ascendance with my own eyes, the dreams of my fallen friends and compatriots will power this future's creation. As the Council's severed head finally dies in the dust, hope for unchained generations to come swells fierce in my chest. May their journey lead to wonders we yet dream of in our cradle. The rest is yet unwritten.